Hello friends, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. Lots to talk about today regarding Chelsea's players. Are we in trouble? Ooh, you might say, Jan, why are you saying that? Top of the Premier League, looking good. And yes, in many ways, we are. Although, got a lot of attackers, Chelsea. Remember that summer when Frank Lampard and Chelsea bought Kai Havertz, Timo Werner and Hakim Ziyech? It looked like we were sorted for life. The best attacking Arsenal in Europe, possibly. But I'm starting to think, maybe not. Maybe not. I want to talk later in the video in a little bit more detail about Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech in isolation. Two amazing players in their own right, in different ways, different skill sets, but both excellent. But both might not make it at Chelsea. And Chelsea are in the business of winning right now, and are in the business of making it themselves. So there's a lot to get into there. I want to reflect on a few things Thomas Tuchel said in his press conference, talking about these absentees that will provoke this conversation about attackers, wingers, maybe why Chelsea are legitimately going in for the likes of Federico Chiesa and stuff like that. We'll talk about that, but I want to talk about the general absentees and stuff like that. So get comfortable, everybody. I'd urge you to subscribe like I do in my YouTube videos, and if you feel like supporting the channel and the content, drop a like. It takes but a second. Alright, so Thomas Tuchel spoke to the media. Of course, he was questioned about the Newcastle takeover, and he was asked if he has concerns about where the money is coming from. Of course, it's being funneled through a sovereign wealth fund, and you guys know the rest. And he, interestingly, sort of said, yes, I have concerns about where the money's coming from. Pretty darn quickly, actually, he voiced that. And to be honest, I think if you had an honest conversation with all the Premier League managers, maybe even including Steve Bruce at this point, they might voice concerns. But that doesn't matter. You know, the Wolves have been let in a long time ago. And Thomas Tuchel does rightly say, and he, as much as I've got a great deal of respect for Thomas Tuchel, and I think he does what's best, I think he's quite forward thinking. So therefore he would have concerns about human rights and all that stuff and where the money's coming from with the Newcastle money. But he does have a proper touch of the company man about him. Do you know what I mean? Like he says, but, you know, the Premier League have allowed them in and we must trust them. And do you know, when the Super League was coming along, yes, loads of coaches came out. Remember Klopp, he was like, no, it's nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Understandably, Tuchel had only just got his legs under the desk and he doesn't want to upset his employer. So he's like, I have absolute trust for my club. He's that kind of diplomatic guy that knows Chelsea's volatile, that knows he himself, as a manager, has a history of being perceived as a volatile guy, of course, at Dortmund and then PSG. And he's probably like, look, no matter what happens, I'm going to go zen on this. I'm going to make it work at Chelsea. And whenever something, you know, difficult to navigate comes up, I'm just going to maybe slightly voice an opinion, but then always come home to, but, you know, I trust my employers, I trust the club, I trust the Premier League. And there is a little bit of the touch of that with Thomas Tuchel. So Chelsea are playing Brentford this weekend, and there are multiple absentees, which Tuchel sounded pretty darn upset and frustrated about, largely because of Thiago Silva, of course 37 years old now, but still a player that Chelsea and of course Tuchel leans on heavily. Won't be able to play because he was away playing with his country and will arrive way too late, and he's missed all the briefings about the game and stuff. So he won't be able to feature, or certainly that's what Tuchel was implying, and he sounded a bit upset and grumpy about that. So he won't feature, but we kind of already knew that. One player we were concerned about and isn't going to be available is Antonio Rudiger with an injury, which is rather frustrating. Of course, Andreas Christensen can move over to that left side in place of Antonio Rudiger, who's the best player for that position in this Chelsea side, because Thiago Silva can play down in the middle, and of course Christensen can fill in on the left. We don't have Thiago Silva, So it will be interesting to see how Tuchel navigates that, if he brings in a Malang Sarr, or if he just plays a Trevor Chalobah on the left and Cesar Azpilicueta on the right. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm sure he's got a plan for that. Fortunately, Romelu Lukaku is okay. That was a concern. That muscle fatigue, I think, like we all assumed, was just a way of getting out of that third place playoff game. And he confirmed he will start on the weekend. But two players that are out are Hakim Ziyech, who's missed training sessions with a headache, oddly, interestingly, and Christian Pulisic, who's just continued to be injured forever. We all remember back in the day, right, when under Lampard, when certain fans thought there was a conspiracy that Frank Lampard just didn't like Pulisic. Excuse me, and this whole injury thing just didn't exist, and Pulisic would look great and happy in the media, like he's kind of doing now. And there's this like weird conspiracy that the manager was making up injuries. I don't think that's the case, by the way, because it's seemingly happening with Thomas Tuchel again. Now, before people get on my back in the comment section, I'm a huge Christian Pulisic fan, and if you're a genuine fan of this channel, you will know that I've sung his praises on a multitude of occasions. How not only is he an amazing player and had that amazing stint of form briefly under Lampard, but he's also the kind of player profile we missed in certain games when we haven't performed well, even this season. You know, that ball carrier into the box, as well as being able to run on the shoulder. Amazing young player. Scored, some great goals for Chelsea in his limited time. But it just doesn't seem like he'll ever stay fit. He had injury problems at Dortmund. The kid is still so young. Was he 22, 23? And he's just had this long list of injuries. And he's just never fit. And although we don't think he was going to be first choice necessarily, look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek at the moment. He looks like he should be starting. This kind of top level football, if you come in and play well, you should keep your place for a bit. I think you should absolutely, without being too crazy, So, and if Pulisic came in recently fit, firing, and scored a couple of goals and looked good, I imagine Thomas Tuchel would keep him in the lineup. So just because we were saying, he won't start, he's still a valued player in the squad, and it doesn't look like he's ever going to be able to get a decent long stint in the team. Similarly, Hakim Ziyech. Now, Hakim Ziyech has been a little bit unlucky at Chelsea. He's been, both the pre-seasons he's had at Chelsea, he's been injured. He's got pretty, not that serious, but quite serious injuries that have put him out. And I do have a little bit of sympathy for Ziyech, because you could tell he had this moment of, all right, I'm not at Ajax anymore, when I can just cruise around nonchalantly using my immense ability on the ball. I've got to press. And he's really skinny. And I remember his first interview with Chelsea, he said something quite encouraging, like, football is about making spaces. And I was like, yes, it is. That is exactly what football is about. Even in, the high-octane, speedy Premier League, you don't have to be beaten up or constantly holding up the ball. You can be, intelligent, make space, pass, in a way like Jorginho does, but as an attacker. Do you know what I mean? And you could tell he's tried to adapt, be high pressing, this, that, a little bit more physical. And he did a little bit, to his credit. But only sometimes will he shine. And he's an amazingly talented player, Hakim Ziyech. Wonderful left boot. Makes that daring, creative pass. At times, I said he could be Chelsea's Bruno Fernandes. Just that immediate forward pass. Take the risk. Lose possession is fine. Because if you've got the runners, bang, 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 audacity in your football and immediate chance taking. He could be that guy. But he's out with headaches and he's not training. And he was the one who was at Cobham and it looked like he'd come in and take a chance. And for sort of different reasons to Christian Pulisic, you feel like Ziyech is the same. It's probably not going to happen at Chelsea. And these are two Ziyech cost 30 million or something. It wasn't, it was quite a good deal considering the profile of the footballer. And actually the reservations, Ziyech. Did I say Ziyech? I mean Ziyech. I probably did. The reservations over Ziyech was his mentality and his attitude. And I don't think there's been a problem there. It's more like his injuries and inability to integrate. And with Pulisic, it's been injuries. Now, both players that I have a huge amount of respect, admiration, and excitement for, individually in their own ways. But you just think more and more and more that these players aren't going to make it at Chelsea, which is frustrating. And I'd love both of them to. I love Ziyech. Again, if you watch the channel, you'd know I've spoken about him so many times. Pulisic, I called him talismanic. I said he could lead this team forward. Maybe he still can if he could finally sort out that injury record. But at the moment, it's not looking too good for these guys. So what does that leave you? That leaves you with Timo Werner, and who can play in a 2 with Romelu Lukaku up front, or he can play off the left. But I think he'll probably be in a 2 with Romelu Lukaku, or maybe the odd occasion down the middle by himself. He's your sort of backup striker. And then you've got Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, who play as like functioning inside 10s. But the way their profile play is different. Mount will play a little bit deeper and press more. Kai Havertz will float around a little bit more and run in the space. So you're no wonder Chelsea are looking at players like, or certainly have been linked to, Federico Chiesa as this wide forward that's just a consistent player that can play all the time and be this threat and be a difference maker, which he is. Now, this video isn't about Federico Chiesa. To be honest, it's not about any particular potential transfer buy. It's about Chelsea, probably behind the scenes, looking at this body of evidence of these players and thinking, right, Werner, hopefully he'll stick around. He's in form. If he can play off Lukaku, great. Mason Mount has been really integral to the functionality of the team, won't be going anywhere. Kai Havertz, I would be personally devastated if it doesn't work for Kai Havertz, because I think he's just this Rolls Royce of a floating player, and I think Roman Abramovich really wanted Kai Havertz, and of course he's Chelsea. Well, he's not Chelsea's record signing anymore, is he? Because of Romelu Lukaku, but he was. Chelsea spent a lot of money on him. They won't get a return on him at the moment, so I think he'll stay. When it comes to Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech, I start to worry, and I think there's a reason Chelsea have been, and will be linked to more wingers, wide forwards. Guys, let me know what you think. Comment down below. I'm keen to hear your thoughts, feelings and opinions on this story. If you enjoy my commentary on these stories, please do drop a like, and you're all welcome to subscribe here on Football Therapy. But either way, I'll thank you for stopping by, and let's start the conversation down in the comment section. So enjoy the football. I'll see you later.